a harder time.
Well, and Boger's had a really hard time doing exactly what they're asking him to do with this comp, with this formation of players for the last couple weeks, right? He was talking to Lemon Kiwi in one of her awesome post-game interviews, and he was like, "We're done losing, right? We're not going to lose," and that confidence is great to see from your main tank, but you've also got to have the team and yourself to perform when you're here, and it's only empty threats at this point, right? You're down 0-2. What you're saying out there needs to ring true at some point, and Boger, that's you're talking, some high game, but you got to perform.
At a certain point, they know you're bluffing. So Revival, hoping not to bluff, hoping to find some real results with Epps on Dishonor, running the Goats composition with Apply on the D.Va this time around. Usually there's Zarya players, so again, going to need a bit of time for everything to solidify, and that quick kill is going to mean a fast reset for Revival.
If it wasn't for that sleep dart, things would have been even worse for Revival. That Tesla cannon would have been able to tickle down enough of Revival to make them hurt on their way back to spawn. And Revival's starting a little bit right now on the attack. Already used a minute for that attack, so Triumph have to repel 3 or 4 more goes, and Lynx already has that EMP. So Epps has the nano, and if Epps positions himself correctly, he should be able to nano whoever he needs to save from the upcoming EMP from Lynx.
And depending on who starts performing well, it could be Boger, it could be Hardest, get him the last couple of % up to that graph, since Triumph are running just the Lucio.
We got Decod in at the top side using that Primal Rage, but he's going to be slept, so he's not going to be able to cause as much discord as he would have liked in the back line. But Icy, who has had himself a game, we've been talking so much about what we're not seeing from Revival. We could talk about what we're seeing from Triumph, and that's Icy, who was on Hog Ruler earlier, and even just now getting that initial pick. But Tivik, though, going to make things interesting, but a huge bio coming in from Triumph. Awkward is going to color 3 members of Revival purple, but Chopped only getting the single pick. That seems to be enough for Revival to reset.
Yeah, sometimes you only need one, and Triumph not needing the grab either to get things done. That's a really unfortunate waste of a nano as well. Boger forced to back off there, not really able to extend any further because of that early loss of Tivik. And Triumph right now playing with a lot of confidence, good positioning. Here we see Decod's already charged 65% up to get another Primal, and such a good stalling ultimate, as well as a great way to isolate the backline.
Boger gets stunned out of that Earth Shatter as well, so Triumph is going to feel really good about this next engage, as all Revival has right now is an Apply Self-Destruct. The rally is alright in this situation, but how much is it actually going to matter in this engagement here coming in from them? Is Icy going to get another initial pick? That first blood going to fall Icy's way. This is a 65 now for Triumph, and with these overshields from the sound barrier, they're looking pretty good. Decod gets another pick. Sammytail, the only one that was in danger zone when it comes to HP, but all 6 members survived this push from Revival, who are down to less than a minute.
And these Bionades have been money from Awkward. Already going to have another nano. That's fine and dandy and amazing, but I feel that Triumph right now is just really taking advantage of the fact that Revival don't have a particularly practiced D.Va player on their side. With all of the nerfs that have hit D.Va recently, you have to be extremely judicious with that Matrix usage, and not only are you going to be looking to eat any projectiles, you gotta look to eat those Bionades, and Revival have been taking so many early hits with the anti-nade, it makes it hard for them to maintain momentum.
Decod's going to get the nano, he's going to get stunned out, but he's going to go ahead and use the Primal at the end of it. Icy once again gets another first blood, this time with the Self-Destruct. His Primal Rage should be pushing Revival off at the point with 2 less members than at Triumph. Revival are not looking like they're going to be able to capture any progress on this map either. They're going to need something huge coming in, and that's exactly how you start that. Paintbrush with a nice boot onto Decod, who's getting a little overconfident, if I say so myself. It's going to get booted off of the map. The Earthshatter goes through, but Revival's going to be colored purple. Apply's going to be the one that's going to be most dangerously low. He's going to survive. His mech does as well. Right now, Triumph actually at a disadvantage because they've used everything that they could in this engage. Revival also now getting that pick means that they have that 6-man advantage. Lynx is gonna need to get to this EMP if they want to compete on this first point.
They need to compete here. Chop, though, very close to the sound barrier. He could buy his team so much more time. They don't even have 2 ticks. Revival need to keep this going, but they're all EMP to 5-man coming in from Lynx.
Now, Decod going to do a little bit of slipping and sliding, it looks like, to get that pin onto that Moira. He's going to get pinned and hit himself. Boger, though, still very low. One hammer should be it. Decod going to get taken, or Ogre going to be taken through by a D-Cod. It's still going both ways right now on the objective. It's going to get a nice whip-shot kill, but right now Revival still having the man advantage. Paintbrush showing up on that kill feed is going to feel good for them, but Revival finally stabilizing, finally getting control here on the point, but man, it did not feel good, right?
It was a battle. Revival clawing their way through Triumph's defense the entire time. They really didn't feel comfortable at any point. And oh no, talking about getting overconfident, Hardest, he's a Tracer, he's gonna be fine, but eats a Fire Strike from D-Cod, whose death was the open door for Revival to get onto that point. You're so far away on Nimbani first when you're the defenders that any pick could spell doom, and Revival were able to push that advantage, but again, it was not them taking it to Triumph, it was Triumph gifting them an unforced error.
Triumph now gonna lose a little bit of HP on it there. Lucio, the hack's gonna go in and shoot the backline. Vic's going to be the one that's going to be losing his shield just for the time being, but Apply getting a nice kill on the 2 shots, so there should be momentum still on the side of Revival as they add another pick.
And this is really good, bodes very well for their later fights as well. Once you're past Street Phase, once you're past Point B, because if Revival continue to press this advantage and find those staggered picks, they can save the Galactic Dragons, that grab Dragon Strike combo for the 3rd point to clear things, because again, Triumph not running a Zenyatta here.
Has a really great stagger going on to Link, so it's going to take a little while for them to come back. Are they even going to compete here? Doesn't look like they will. They're going to put all of their marbles on 3rd of Nimbani. Triumph coming up on some ultimates. You've got D-Cod with that Earthshadow. You've got Awkward with that Nano. Looking on the other side, Apply is already going to get that initial pick on it to Chopped. And this is what I mean. The last push didn't feel good going into A, but this feels good, right? This feels controlled. This feels intentional, right? And it's Revival taking matters into their own hands and pushing advantages. It's something that we haven't seen all series so far, and it's great to see it now, especially when they have such a distinct ultimate advantage like they do at the current time. And we're going to see that Nano go through. So is the Earthshadow. Really good angle on that from D-Pad. That should stop Revival for the time being. A ton of Revival is low, but they're going to go ahead and invest those ultimates. They're going to use the Dragaton combo. The Galactic Dragons are going to feast on a Triumph. 4 kills for them. When you're at a, man disadvantage and you've got that combo, go ahead and just throw it out, right?
I mean,
all you need is 2, I guess.
Yeah, or 4, apparently, if you're Apply. He killed 5-6 of that team by himself, but Triumph do have this sound barrier. Revival can't relax right now. They've used the grab.
Hardest though going to get that initial pick. This is momentum on Revival's side. Again, this feels so much better than the rest of their Nimbani so far. Triumph having a very hard time stabilizing here ever since that first point, and they're still struggling to stop this payload. Whenever you see that Wrecking Ball just do circles around the objective, you know it is desperation time. So they're going to get that final blow onto that hand, and maybe Tadek just needed to go to brick jail for a match.
Apparently,
right?
and remember how amazing it was, right?
to
3 squares
DPS.
a day, right? I just mouse 1 and W. This, even though we're not seeing every DPS player that Revival has on DPS necessarily, that's how you find value. That's how you find value. It's not about quantity, it's about quality, and not making any kind of statement about the quality of these players, but you can tell that Revival were giving the resources to Apply. They were making space. They were working around the Hanzo Zarya combo. And that's really what they needed against Triumph, who had Icy on the D.Va, and definitely a case where you're like, what even is the use of D.Va today, right? Where her value, you're not really finding it against the composition that Revival are. Right, exactly. Or are you going to do Matrix Grab and Dragon Strike?
And Bionade.
And the volleys, right?
You just got to eat it all. That easy for it.
Just eat it. Just eat it.
Triumph and Revival now going to go ahead and stop that. Triumph and Revival now going to be approaching this time the attack of Triumph. And I 76 on with Awkward is probably not going to happen, but I like the idea. You can run 76 on this first part of the map as a little factoid. We probably won't see, but if we do, it's a totally legitimate thing that you can do on this first point. There's so much high ground that the 76 can work with. It used to be very popular at the advent of Goats. Before Goats was Goats, remember it was Cushion the Cowboy with the McCree, and the 76 just on this map, though.
I mean, if you're very old, you remember when Envious ran Harryhood with 76 on Nimbani, but that's neither here nor
there was a hot minute
here.
where our supports played 76 there.
Right. Well, I mean, mostly Harry. That's just the Envious fanboy coming out here. But Triumph, they're going to be running a very familiar look. Lynx on the Sombra, Awkward on the Honor. Revival going with something very unique again, tapping into that single main tank with Boger on the Orisa. And this is where this could actually work very, very well. He doesn't have to hold the point and get assaulted from all angles. He has DPS on the defense who can already set up these crossfires and exploit those angles, so Triumph takes a ton of damage every time they step onto the point.
If can isolate whoever is the most vulnerable from a Triumph just with the hack, whoever is doing more DPS, hardest or Vic, they can call on the Sombra to confirm those kills, and right now it's starting to work. Supply is going to get that kill onto Decod. Lynx very low as well.
Triumph when they're running Decod and Icy together, and sometimes maybe you only need Icy and Alive. What was I just saying about Divas not finding a ton of value?
Revival's going to find a little bit more value from getting those initial picks. Awkward will be the final one to fall. Icy's taking a nap on point, actually. And this is a big deal for Triumph, because that is potentially some point presence that Revival has not started to contest just yet. So that's 2 picks over for Triumph here, because there was a D.Va who happened to be sleeping on the objective and no one else was around it. Tivik going to use that Rocket Barrage, not really finding much from it, but Decod has spent more time in spawn than developing anything from this monkey so far.
2 ticks, though, not bad. Even though Icy wasn't accruing point presence that entire time, Revival left him alive, which gave them a really big opening. You saw how Decod came back in when Revival wasn't expecting that dive, and that's the scary thing. Revival has no mobility. There's no way for them to quickly jump on top of Triumph and push them back outside of outright killing.
He goes through. Not a ton of people hacked, though. Let's see if Lynx is going to have a bigger one from his EMP. The Overshields have already gone down. He's going to go ahead and use that EMP. 4 members of Revival are hacked. This is the opening that Triumph has been waiting for so far here in the body, but Hardest with a return kill on the D.Va is going to make it a little bit harder for Triumph, but Decod finally getting that Primal Rage. Should be pushing Revival all around the objective. People should be isolated. They should be getting picked off, and Triumph is doing just that. They will be getting this first point.
Primal's really strong ultimate against the stationary composition that Revival were running. When you're relying on those sightlines, when you're relying on the crossfire to find those picks, any kind of displacement, spells doom for your composition. You're no longer able, if you're an Ana, to heal up your Orisa. If you're an Ashe, you can't find the sightlines onto the vulnerable members on the point. So Triumph right here, despite getting rebuffed a couple of times early on, still rolling and sticking with it, although they are going to put Smeedo on the Hanzo as well. No Zarya here. It's going to be pure arrow shenanigans.
Clyde's going to get free with his EMP, but so far Sammytail only finding the casualty of this fight so far, and that seems to be a common thing when it comes to Revival versus Triumph so far. We'll get into more detail about that after this fight, as Decod going to find Epps into the back line, and Triumph have stabilized. They've done more than stabilize. They've gotten the momentum on their side, but Revival tends to lose members after the EMP.
They don't have a great system just yet to react to those EMPs. It could definitely be due to the fact that they've had a lot of moving parts to deal with for the last few weeks. Looks like they're going to try and contest this point B.
They're going to go ahead and do it, but a ton of Revival are already low. Hardest is going to fall really early on. Decod still using this Primal Rage. The Brig also finding herself in a precarious situation, but it's going to be able to survive. EMP goes through. Fly is hacked and is so very low. Awkward's going to finish that off. Tivik's going to be the next to fall. No rally for you, as Triumph should be grabbing this point.
I love Decod taking a nap behind enemy lines. Wakes up eventually to pincer them from behind. Unintentional synergy. But that has, when it is intentional, been what Triumph have been trading on against Revival, who are going to swap Epps onto the Moira, make him a little less vulnerable to Lynx. It goes down to Hardest. I don't think that's going to stop up Triumph's momentum very much, though. He was only 30% to the EMP. They weren't going to be relying on that to open things up.
Sammytail's going to use the Dragon Strike along with the Self-Destruct. I like that. It causes so much discombobulation that you're avoiding the Dragon Strike one day, but you're going to fall victim to the Self-Destruct on another. Applying Tivik, though, going to try to even things up here during this fight, as Triumph had lost 2 members. Tivik is hacked and is so very low. Hardest is able to throw the grab before falling, no. But it's on the payload, so even though they were grabbed up in that unwilling head, they still were making progress, and Triumph going to continue their momentum here into the very end stages of the fight.
Oh, that's hilarious. That is just a hilarious image. 3 people stuck to the cart. Even if they didn't want to move it, well, you're going to find some distance. Triumph now have another opener. Lynx does have EMP this time around, but Revival could preempt him. This is kind of what you do when you're battling Sombra v Sombra.
EMP goes through. Decon and Chop for the ones that are hacked. They're the ones on the ground as well. EMP is going to be bigger coming from Lynx. And the first initial picks now for Triumph. It's a 64 for them. They've got 2.5 minutes on the clock. They are beating Revival's time so far. And Revival walks through screen and at third, but so is Triumph. Apply, though, going to try to trigger at least a fight here on the objective, which does not happen. Triumph also complete Nambani. Revival will be attacking first.
Something really interesting that Lynx does with his EMPs is he's almost always a win more type of EMPing Sombra. It doesn't usually open up fights with big EMPs. Triumph collapses upon Revival. Often, especially in the later stages of that last round, we see him saving it, waiting for the better, juicier opportunity when Revival drop the EMP first. And that's not something that we see be successful as often with teams, because it's just that much more finicky. When you can control the tempo, when you control who and when you engage on, you can find a lot of value from EMP. Everybody's set up, they know exactly who they're going to be diving, but Triumph have been able to eke a ton of value from the Sombra that EMP second.
Well, and so I think there's definitely a little bit of that, but coming over from Revival as well, applies just EMP first a lot, right? And Revival is expecting, I think anytime like I throw my translocator out at EMP, it's gonna be 6-man, right? But really, I hit nobody. And so what Apply's doing is going in there, he gets 2 hacks, gets 3. Remember, it's not about getting 6-man all the time, because, you know, single grabs can work, but I think everyone comes in and tries to get those kills after that Apply EMP that could be better, and so everyone is way more vulnerable to the